Let me tell you about Donkey Kong 1994. By the end of 1994, the character of Donkey Kong would be changed in a way that shaped his trajectory in the greater Nintendo character circle thanks to Rareware and Donkey Kong Country, an immediate classic that brought the character further into his own that would act as the foundation for many of the releases and is still that to this day. However, earlier that year, a collaborative effort between Nintendo EAD and PAX Softnica, who were on a hell of a string in the early 90s, holy shit, brought together a sort of retroactive send-off to his original style of character that in its own way would still be inspirational to not only the character of Mario in some capacity, but also influential to the dynamic of Donkey Kong and Mario and how games between the two would exist in the future. It's a game that I think in hindsight, while receiving pretty decent response in its time, might have also been outshined by the aforementioned success that came via the creative overhaul of the character by the year's end. It's a game that also turned 30 recently that I wanted to celebrate today. The self-titled remake of sorts for the original Game Boy, Donkey Kong 1994. One of the things my grandma bought to keep us entertained as kids whenever we would go visit were a handful of Game Boy games. And you had your classics that were household staples by that point already, like Tetris, but also bought games like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Fall of the Foot Clan, and games like Quirk and Kicks that I've had passive mentions on the channel before. And one of those games was Donkey Kong 94. This is not that copy. This is a copy that I bought as an adult to remind myself why I love this game. And I gotta say, while the legacy of this game is definitely getting its flowers again, like I said in the intro, this shaped an avenue of Mario and Donkey Kong alike that is getting, you know, its due nostalgia trip actually this year, ironically enough. But in that same breath, it kind of further sidelines the inspiration for that series because, again, this game turns 30, and I think that as far as, like, being one of the, you know, essential experiences one can have on the Game Boy, while it may not be top 5, possibly, it's definitely top 10. And I would say when it comes to, like, puzzle platforming and adapting and celebrating the legacy of the arcade era of Donkey Kong, with, like, Pauline, Mario, and Donkey Kong being the three main figures, the Kong-ass aspect, the King Kong-inspired-ass aspect of the character. This sends that off to the horizons in retrospect beautifully. It's just a shame that the things that would come would be the quintessential version of the character, or at least the character as it exists as of filming this video. But Donkey Kong 94 starts with that classic arcade game in all of its tiny splendor, and I love how after that, piece by piece, evolves the world and also has an immediate turn into a much more stylish direction with, like, the cityscape and the cutscenes that, while continue to be cropping up, also act as a tutorial of sorts as you go across these 9 worlds which take the roots of Donkey Kong and push them to their limit while also adding things like springs, wire jumping, and addable ladders and platforms and the like, while using each backdrop to further pay homage to other aspects of this era by having, like, Donkey Kong Jr. crop up, or, like, vines and ropes and the jungle forest and the ships and the like, to add that style of the Donkey Kong arcade platforming into the mix. There's just a lot here that feels like a good love letter to this era of Donkey Kong that I think shouldn't be forgotten, especially given that, like, while Mario vs. Donkey Kong very much pays homage to, you know, this by being a puzzle platformer, 2D style, where you've got to, like, get from point A to point B while interacting with the world. It's not quite in the same spirit. You know, I like that this game juggles, like, it also has, like, the key mechanics from, like, Mario 2, where you're, like, tossing the keys to get to the end. It's just got a lot going on that I think pays tribute to Mario specifically, in tandem with Donkey Kong as the character had been up to this point. I don't know, I think that this game is an absolute banger, and I will say that if it wasn't, like, a game that I was exposed to a lot via my grandparents. I don't even know if I would have played it until later on in life, but like it hasn't been put on the Nintendo Switch Online. This would be the perfect year to do so, and while like during its era, it definitely got its love. It got like a Super Game Boy skin and the like. Again, by 1994's end, I think very much so, due to the success of Donkey Kong Country and how great that game is. It sort of began a new renaissance for the character via this redesign that this game just didn't have going on at the time. I feel like in retrospect very much is a sort of passing the torch moment, but I wanted to highlight it on here. I wanted to celebrate it because it does turn 30, and it's very much, again, worth your time if you love Mario platformers and you haven't played, because like, the way that he controls in this has that same fluidity that I feel like he embraced during the 3D era. You know, he's got a triple jump on here. The acrobatics that are done with like the wire jumping feel like something that comes back in a game like Sunshine. Like there's parts of this that also feel like they sort of are springboarded from in the Mario world as much as the Donkey Kong world. And I think that if you like Mario's platforming as a whole, this game does a lot with it in such a small, simple package. You know, I think that it's a huge world, but it just kind of flies by given how simple it's all put together. It's a game with components that just get deep given the avenues the designers decided to take it creatively. It's a really cool experience. It's a really cool game. If you get a copy, change the battery. This one was dead, and so I only got like 30 minutes through the first couple of worlds, and when I went to go back to maybe record some more, it was dead. Do you like this game? Do you not? Let me know your thoughts on it in the comments down below. If you did like it, give it a like. If you want to see more, consider subscribing. I drop 2 to 4 vids a week, depending on what I've got going on. Thank you guys so very much for watching. I've been Viral Rack. You guys have good days, lots of situations, and I'll see you another day.